Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Kubeir. I'm a CICC licensed immigration consultant. This channel is all about Canadian immigration news, updates, things that you should do, should not do with your Canadian immigration application. Of course, a lot of exciting things have happened in this week, and that's why today's weekly roundup is already looking very exciting, at least to me, because I already know what's going to go in there. But how we would do this is we would go through different PNPs, the draws that have happened, some other news. Then we will come back to the question and answers. And of course, I would request you to please hold back your questions until we get to that stage, or else we always miss some of them out. Let's get started with this one, starting with the quote of the week. That's what we usually start with. Positive thinking is empowering, uplifting, and inspiring. It opens up new possibilities, expands our horizons, and helps us to achieve our dreams. Quote is by unknown. So if you know who this quote is from, please do drop me a message. I would love to see who this quote is from, because I love this quote. A lot of times we just get trapped with negative thinking. Hoga hi nahi, ho hi nahi sakta. Somebody will tell you that, it is not possible, it's not going to happen. Like I'm going to tell you today, immigration is looking very difficult. So these kind of negative thoughts, once they have taken root in your mind, they do not open up your mind to anything more positive, to any opportunities, to any things that might be possible for you. So please always be positive. Keep thinking, keep having positive thoughts that will allow your mind to open up to various possibilities that may or may not be for you, of course. But as and how you get to those possibilities, as and how you get to those things that come into your mind, you will be able to then judge whether they will work for you or not. But it will not happen if you don't open up your mind. So please always, keep it open to positive thoughts instead of the negative. The minute you start hearing negative thoughts, just block them off. You are the guardian of your own mind. So, do a good job of that one. This is the Canadian Immigration Weekly Roundup. Stay up to date on Canadian immigration news and trends, starting with the PNP draws. Quite a few PNP draws happened this week. Exciting week for PNPs. On the 7th of March, BC, British Columbia, invited 229 applicants to invite for provincial nomination through BC PNP. The targeted 5 streams of BC PNP in general draw. 45 candidates were invited across 5 other streams in healthcare, as well as occupations in early childhood education and other healthcare occupations. Now, I would just like to remind you that if you are interested in BC PNP, one of the biggest criteria and requirements is that you have a job offer from an eligible employer in BC. And of course, there is a points grid. You will have to create your expression of interest. And if you are selected, if you get drawn out, then you can complete your application for BC PNP. Manitoba, on the 9th of March, Manitoba has invited 597 candidates through 3 different streams to apply for the nomination. They refer to these invitations as LAA, Letter of Advice to Apply. 43 candidates were invited through the strategic recruitment initiatives, 666 plus points required. 227 candidates were invited in all other eligible occupations, 675 only, not a lot, pretty decent, right? And they also invited candidates in sales and service support occupations. So Manitoba is also again choosing certain specific occupations and inviting them. Ontario, this was the much bigger news, because we tend to sort of have so much of expectations from Ontario, especially under the human capital priorities draw stream. So Ontario, under the health, this is the new stream that they're calling health stream. On the 9th of March, Ontario invited 822 candidates under the human capital priorities stream. Substream is the health stream. The target CRS range was 469 to 489, and they basically invited knock codes in the series of 300s, 311, 321, 331, and all that. Let me just show you very quickly if I can. I can, of course, yes. Let's see this. These were the knock codes that were invited. A long list, basically a lot of general physicians, doctors were invited, veterinarians were invited, dentists, optometrists, pharmacists, chiropractors, dental hygienists, pharmacy technicians, pharmacists, of course, massage therapists, nursing aides, registered nurses. So a whole lot of occupations were invited. Now, keep in mind, these occupations, under normal circumstances, under normal situations, as we have seen, usually these occupations don't find any favor with most of the provinces. So it's only nice to see that at least one province like Ontario has now stepped up and is inviting so many of these occupations within the healthcare stream of the human capital priority stream. Now, a couple of pointers. I did make a detailed video yesterday telling you if you have received a notification of interest, then what you need to do. But very quickly going through it, if you chose your primary knock code, which was one of those invited, then you would have got an invitation. If you do have experience in any of these occupations, but you did not choose this as your primary knock code, you wouldn't have gotten invited. Your CRS range score on the day you were invited or on the day this draw happened should have been between 469 to 489. The reason it is 489 sorry. The reason it is 489 is because they always conduct their draws in tandem with express entry. So whatever is the last express entry draw score, they will do 1 point less. In this case, 489 is what they have chosen to go with. And you need to have at least 1 year of work experience within the last 5 years. That is the basic criteria. You should have at least a bachelor's degree equivalency in Canadian equivalency terms, and you should have adequate proof of funds. This is the basic criteria. This is the basic requirement. If you have the notification of interest, you do need to submit your application within the next 45 days. So that's how Ontario rolls. Again, on the following day, which was on the 10th of March, yesterday, Ontario conducted another occupation-specific draw, and that was under the human capital priorities, but this time it was a tech draw. And under the tech draw, they invited 812, I think, if that was the correct number, 812 candidates. Score range was 478 or 479. Hold on. 479. So what's on the slide is incorrect. So the score range was 479 to 489, and total of 10 knock codes were invited. These are basically the knock codes that usually Ontario has been inviting. Let's quickly take a look at this. These were the knock codes. The score range was 479 to 489. Knock codes were computer information system managers, data scientists, database analysts, computer system developers, software engineers, software developers, web designers, web developers, computer engineers. Obviously, these knock codes earlier used to be 6 when we had the old knock system, and now with the tier system, because some of these knock codes have been expanded. Therefore, you have 10 knock codes in IT that they are now inviting. Now, a lot of questions are always there. Why is this knock code not invited? Why is that knock code not invited? I really can't answer that question. This is all dependent on the labor market priorities that Ontario has decided upon, and that is how they decide these knock codes. Again, the CRS score range was at 489 at the top cutoff because obviously, as I said, they play it in tandem with express entry. Same thing applies if you have received an invitation here, then please, you have 45 days. You should have 1 year of work experience in the knock code that you have been invited within the last 5 years. This should have been your primary knock code. You should have 1 year of work experience. You will need proof of funds, whether you're Canadian experience class or outside, doesn't matter. You will need to provide proof of funds, or if you are inside Canada, inside Ontario, then you can also show your salary, offer letter, pay slips, pay stubs to compensate for the proof of funds. That is also allowed. Again, Ontario's website has a detailed checklist. You can go through that. They have a very good website which tells you how you need to apply. As I said, I did a video yesterday. You can go through it. It does tell you step by step what you need to do, how you need to go about doing this. So this was Ontario. Great draw. As I said, 812 people were invited on this one as well. So in total, roughly over the last 2 days, they have invited more than 1,600 people. Ontario is, as I said, always a great draw to happen because one, you do not need any job offer. You do not need any relatives. You do not need any connection to Ontario to be eligible. You get invited, you are eligible, check your eligibility and absolutely submit your application. A lot of people let's talk about that. Even now, a lot of people are thinking, should I, shouldn't I? Hey, I'm at 489. Hey, I'm at 488. I'm at 487. I might get an express entry draw. I've heard PNP takes a long time for processing. They take 20 months and I want to wait for express entry. So I don't mean to be rude, but don't be stupid. Run with it. Go with it. This is your golden ticket. This is your golden opportunity. Don't think about those $1,500 that you will have to pay additionally to Ontario. Trust me, you will be able to make that up pretty quickly once you get here. At this point of time, with so much of unpredictability, uncertainty with express entry and what the hell's going on there, what's happening over there, what exactly are they trying to do there, you would be smart if you have received the invitation and you go with it. All right. As I said, a lot of people are still asking these questions, and sometimes I wonder, can't you see for yourself? Last almost month and a half now, getting to be, there has been no express entry draw. Whenever the next express entry draw will happen, the scores are going to be on the higher end of things. And if you really are that concerned, I will give it to you. I mean, of course, it's your money, $1,500, not mine. So obviously, I mean, I have to sort of go with that as to why should I spend if I don't have to, kind of a feeling. So therefore, for you, I will have a small tip. Prepare your application because the documentation requirement is almost the same. Prepare your documents, keep it all ready just so that you have to click on the submit button. Okay, just don't obviously click on the submit button. Wait, because you have 45 days, which basically means you can easily wait for the next 2, maybe even 3 express entry round cycles to see if express entry draw is happening and if you will get invited or not. You have only received a notification of interest, which basically means you haven't received a nomination. Because you haven't received a nomination, your express entry pool, your express entry profile will remain valid in the express entry pool. You haven't received a nomination, as I said. Therefore, if there is a draw and if the scores does drop, then you will get invited in that draw. So you don't have to worry about, hey, I've got a notification, will I still be in the pool or not? So don't worry about that. You can still do it. And this way you will have covered both sides, and hence you would be, pretty cool and safe. So go with this. If you are anywhere with the scores of 487, 488, 486 below, don't even think about it. The sooner you get on with it, the better it is. As far as the processing times, let's talk about the processing time while we are at it. Ontario will take roughly 3 months in processing, maybe sooner. And after you've got the nomination, you would have the next draw. Let's say the next draw happens after 2 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever the time might be. You accept the invitation, you accept the nomination. After that, you have 60 days to submit your documents. So considering that you already have all your documents ready, you will need to apply for police clearance, you will need to apply for medical. So what you can also do is, once you have submitted your application to nomination, start getting other things ready. For example, police clearance. Police clearance, specifically from India, takes about 2 months. In some countries might even take more. So the minute you submit your application for nomination, get your police clearance started. So you are ahead of time as far as your police clearance is concerned. Once you will receive your ITA, because all your documents are ready, be quick, submit your application to IRCC quickly, and as far as the current processing times are concerned, IRCC is processing the applications pronto and fast. It's happening very, very quick, which basically means you could very well get your PR application approved in 2 to 5 months. 6 months is average processing, but 2 to 5 months is something which has become very, very common. So in total, you could basically be in Canada as a permanent resident in 8 to 10 months flat, depending on how quick you are with your submissions. It's a realistic possibility. You could be spending your next winters, if you wanted to, in Canada, if you want to, right? So think about it. Be positive, right? That's the whole game. Be positive, and that's how you're going to get this cracking. Now to some other good news as well. Alberta has increased Alberta's nomination quotas have been increased by 50%. Yay, that's cool, right? So their new nomination quota is now 9,750, which is a 50% increase over the last year, which was roughly 6,700. This basically means that they will now be able to call almost 3,000 more people under their immigration programs. The good news with Alberta is that they consider even low CRS scores of 300 plus. The bad news is that they usually do not publish, they usually do not announce what their exact criteria on basis on what they are choosing. So that is the only downer with Alberta. But also Alberta earlier this year had announced that they would be providing some advantage to people who has family in Alberta. By family, I mean siblings. Siblings is your real brother, sister, and your parents, your grandparents. If they live as permanent residents or as citizens in Alberta, then that gives you a direct advantage. You have a great chance of your profile being picked up by Alberta, provided your occupation is also considered as in demand. So, but this is overall a good news because, hey, 3,000 more nominations coming from Alberta basically means happiness all around. More people get invited, more people get through, and therefore more people have a crack at it, has a shot at it. As of right now, they have 1,740 applications which are in the processing queue. So they do have a lot of applications, which basically means that they will not be issuing any large number of draws very quickly. Rather, they will take it easy until they have cleared some of their processing queue. And that's how they will roll. Also keep in mind, all these 9,750 is not for express entry. It is distributed amongst their various streams, including Alberta Opportunity Stream, Rural Stream, their tech accelerated tech pilot stream, and also their entrepreneur stream. So it's distributed, and it's not only for express entry. But overall, good news. And at that note, also another good news coming from Manitoba. Manitoba has also increased their quotas, or rather, they haven't increased, but their quotas were increased by 50%. Manitoba's nomination allocation is now at 9,500, almost the same as Alberta. And this increase is by 3,175 nomination allocation, which is pretty cool. As I said, the more the number of nominations coming through, the more the better opportunity for so many people out there who are otherwise finding Canadian immigration quite difficult, with the express entry draws not happening or the scores staying quite high. As of right now, Manitoba has already issued roughly 2,000 LAAs, letter of advice to apply. And if Manitoba is your destination of choice, then this is, as I said, great news, and some good news expected as and how we progress with more nominations, with more invitations being issued by them. Quebec also conducted an ARIMA draw, but this was on the 2nd of March. They obviously published this information quite late, so we are talking to you about it late. They invited 1,017 candidates with a score of at least 589 to apply for permanent residence. The draw did not target any specific occupations, thank God. And but the invitations were sent out to people who had a job offer outside the Montreal area. There you go. Again, job offer comes into play. Other news, of course, there is some other news as well. Canada's immigration ministers, so when we say immigration, we're talking about the provincial ministers. They provided updates on their top objectives. So they got together on the 10th of March. They had this forum of ministers meeting, and they had this midterm meeting yesterday in Halifax. This comprises of the provincial and territorial ministers who are responsible for immigration from all the other provinces. And they basically got together and discussed what they required from IRCC, what they required from the federal government. And this is how the allocations were finalized. Now, with all the provinces getting almost a 50% increase, at this point of time, Ontario has not announced its new immigration quotas, but I am assuming that they would have also got a very serious bump up in their quotas, in their targets. If Alberta and Manitoba has got it by 50%, you could very well expect that Ontario would have at least 30 to 50% of immigration bump up as well. Currently, rather 2022, Ontario's nomination quota was about 9,750. And with this bump, whenever they will announce, they're looking at roughly 16 to 17,000 at least as their immigration quotas for 2023, which would be great, right? So we can expect more human capital priority draws. We can expect more international student graduate draw. We can expect more employer job offer draws. We can expect more, which one am I left? Skilled trades stream draw. So overall, that would be pretty cool. But in this meeting that they had, a midterm meeting that they had with the immigration ministers, they have also agreed to increase or expand the PNPs under the AIP and RNIP. AIP is Atlantic Immigration Program. RNIP is Rural Northern Immigration Pilot Program. And they are also expanding the capacity up to 44%, which will be also the increase in the allocations for these programs. Collectively, again, as I said, more allocations basically means more happiness, because that would again translate directly into more people being invited and having an opportunity to get a crack at it. Another one, IRCC has 65% more staff than they need to manage express entry. Wow. This one I never imagined, because, hey, don't we all know that IRCC still has a considerable backlog even in express entry, which for some reason they're doing nothing about. And then to come to this information that, so what was happening is, when the backlogs were creating so much of negative news, Sean Fraser has announced that we are recruiting more staff, and he had made that announcement more than once. Once he said 1,200 new staff were hired, then he said 500 new staff were hired, and those kind of news came out in the news, right? So now we have realized, when they had a internal audit, and the parliamentary report has indicated that IRCC has 65% more staff than is required for express entry. Now, This obviously could be a very good understanding of why so many applications in Express Entry are now being processed in not months, not in years, but in weeks. So the fastest I have recently seen was about 20 days flat application approved from AOR to PPR, or portal request, whatever you want to call it. This was for CECs, federal skilled workers, both inland, outland, both. On an average, we are now seeing 2 to 4 months for the application processing to happen. Well, this is definitely one of the reasons why that could be happening. IRCC having 65% more people. Imagining sitting over a cup of chai and a bit of a smoke and saying, hey, can we process this application? Yeah, okay, click, submit. Let's go and get another cup of chai because, hey, we've got so much of time to kill. 65% more staff. Can you imagine? At a point of time when we were thinking they don't have enough people to manage the applications, now they have 65%. But what does this basically mean? It also means that they are looking to spend 700 million over the next 5 years to meet their targets for processing over the Express Entry systems. So they will be spending 700 million on different things, including their staffing cost over the next 5 years. In against that 700 million, they will be collecting 743 million. When I'm saying more than 7 million, it's actually 762 million. And what they will be collecting from application fees is only 743 million. In basically, if you have to see how much they would be going around with this, they would be in a net loss of about 40 million. The numbers on the slide, again, are not really that accurate, but approximately 40 million. So IRCC's Express Entry stream is also a loss-making stream for them. For people who think that IRCC is making money out of Express Entry, well, that's not really true. And they need these staff, obviously, to process the applications within the 6 months standard, 80% of the applications. But they're also saying that this number of staff is adequate for the next 5 years because the numbers of target, the immigration plans, quotas will keep increasing year on year. So let's hope they don't fire the staff. Let's hope they keep the staff. Because trust me, I don't think any one of us is going to complain if you see your applications being processed in 2 months or less. That would be so much better than having had to wait for 2 years. There are so many people who are still struggling, not getting an application processed or information or status or anything to do with their application for even 2 years. And they have to then spend more money on mandamus, etc., just to get a decision from IRCC, which is pathetic. But yeah, that's how it's happening. But that's basically what I have for you with our today's weekly roundup in terms of whatever has happened. So connect with us, social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, of course. And if you're here, then hit on that like button, give it that boop. And of course, do subscribe to the channel because, hey, this channel needs to get more subscribers. I do not know why we are struggling with less, but let's start with you. You first hit that subscribe button so we can get more numbers going up, and then we can sort of look at different things. Right. So today's other topic of discussion, which basically is on our thumbnail, is Canadian immigration is getting very difficult. Now, I'm not sure how many of you joined me for our live stream that I had with Stephen Murins on Wednesday this week, a couple of days back. And we had this discussion about Express Entry draws, which are not happening, and Bill C-19, which we have no clue about. Nobody has a clue about Bill C-19. I think I'm one of the very few people on YouTube or elsewhere who has been talking so much about Bill C-19 ever since it went into Parliament as a motion and after that. But there is absolutely no news, no information, nothing at all about what's going on with Bill C-19. We did discuss, but from the discussion, I learned something. I learned two things which honestly I did not give a thought about. So first thing was that as far as Bill C-19 is concerned, I was under the impression and assumption that IRCC is expected to disclose the categories by the month of February. That is the 5th sitting day of the Parliament after 31st of January. But Stephen, when we were having this discussion, and he enlightened me and he told me, well, it is not necessary that that's what it means. What it means is in the following year, after the year has passed, in that year, when the parliamentary report on immigration is tabled, at that point of time, IRCC will need to disclose what were the categories under which the previous year, the Bill C-19 was implemented. That is like, whoa, it like blew my mind. Because all that time I was thinking IRCC will announce the categories in advance. And now I've come to understand better that IRCC absolutely does not need to make any announcements for the categories, which basically means Bill C-19 draws can happen at any point of time. Nobody knows when, but they can happen at any point of time, especially because in one of their documents, IRCC had indicated that their systems will be ready by spring. Spring is around the corner. It's about 9 days away. 20th of March 2023 is the date that spring in Canada officially arrives. The weather-wise, I cannot say that, because weather-wise, spring is definitely not here. But by the date, by the calendar date, definitely spring is on the 20th of March. And therefore, IRCC could very well be ready to conduct their draws under Bill C-19 as and when they are absolutely ready with the systems. This, again, on our discussion, as you were having this discussion with Stephen, also was another understanding or realization that there is a possibility that the draws are not happening because we all know IRCC does not have the best of the IT systems. Look at the current system, right? It's always crashing, always creating all kinds of an error. And therefore, it is quite possible that the draws were not happening because of the changes that they have been conducting in the system to meet the Bill C-19. So it is quite possible that they were having more technical glitches than they had expected, hence them not wanting to go ahead with the draws. It is very easy to continue with the PNP draws because everybody with the score of 600 plus goes through it. But for the remaining, they might not have wanted to conduct the draw because of the system changes that they are conducting and they are having problems with. That was the only theory that we could realistically come up with and agree upon. Now, having said that, main topic for today's discussion was Canadian immigration becoming more difficult. And guys, I've been extremely honest with you. I've been very transparent. I don't try to mince my words. I don't try to make it look brighter than whatever. In contrast to the quote for today, I will try and stay as positive as I can. But positivity also means you not fooling yourself, but being realistic and having absolutely, clarity in what you can do and cannot do. So as far as Canadian immigration is concerned, I've always been saying that there are about 1.2 million people in Canada who are temporary residents. And that number comes from the open source data from IRCC's website based on how many international students, how many temporary foreign workers, spouses of the international students, spouses of the temporary foreign workers. Collectively, this number, in my opinion, is more than 1.2 million. Nowhere does it give you the exact number, but if you calculate all these different numbers, 1.2 million is approximately that number that you would come at. What I didn't realize or calculate is the other provisions that IRCC has been making politically or whatever you want to call it. Whether it was giving now work permit authorizations to Iranian candidates, whether it was giving work permit authorizations to Ukrainians. Now, I understand now that more than 900,000 work permit applications have been approved by IRCC. 900,000, okay? Or rather 900,000 have applied, about 500 to 600, my bad, not 900,000 have applied, roughly 500,000 to 600,000 have been approved. Of these, already 200,000 people have already arrived in Canada. These are all approximate numbers, not exact numbers, so don't hold a gun onto me. You can always look at those numbers on the, as I said, open source data website. But these are rounded up numbers on the more realistic side. So roughly 200,000 Ukrainian work permit holders have already arrived. About 500 to 600,000 have been approved. Total 900,000 have applied, which the possibility is that they would also get approved as and how we are going. That basically means we don't only have 1.2 million people who are in Canada who are temporary residents, but when you will add these numbers, you are looking at roughly, as and when most of these people are in Canada, roughly 2 million people or closer to that. And these are the number of people who will all want to become permanent residents. I mean, look at it realistically. If Ukrainians do come to Canada, and obviously they are, struggling with some very difficult situations in their home country, which obviously nobody should have to go through, but that's how it is. How many of them would want to go back to their home country? Okay, realistically, let's say even half want to choose to stay in Canada. That basically puts direct number of temporary residents to more than 1.6, 1.8 million people. Add to that the new international students who are constantly coming into Canada because the admissions are not closing. The number of international students who are getting approved is not reducing. Add to that their spouses. Add to that the temporary foreign workers who are coming because there is a huge shortage in so many industries in Canada. If you see this number, this just completely blows my mind because nobody is talking about it. Nobody is giving anybody this number and saying, guys, the annual immigration quotas, the annual immigration targets every year is roughly 500,000, about roughly 500,000, right? Let's not get to the exact number. 485,000 for this year, next year 500,000. But if that number is 500,000, and that 500,000 again is broken down between federal high-skilled workers, express entry, PNPs, refugees, protected persons, family immigration, business immigration, caregivers, all these different categories. So what is going to happen with these 2 million people, roughly 2 million people? I mean, where is the place for them in the immigration quotas? Even if you say that, yes, that will happen over the next few years, if it happens over the next few years, is anybody calculating that each year more people keep coming to Canada? More temporary workers will come to Canada, more temporary residents will come to Canada. All these international students who are already in Canada, they would be completing their studies. They would be also entering the race of becoming permanent residents. They would also completing the Canadian education, Canadian work experience, and hence becoming eligible with that. They're also securing job offers and they would be coming into the same race. Trust me, whenever I look at these numbers, it completely baffles me that nobody within the government is coming out and talking about this is going to be a huge issue. This is going to be a big problem. This imbalance in the numbers. I mean, okay, let's take a more conservative number. Let's say there are not 2 million. Let's say there are 1 million. Okay, let's absolutely break it down and say, okay, Kubeir, you are talking bullshit. This is not 2 million. 1 million people. Okay, you will agree, right? 1 million. That is what IRCC has been publishing on their website. Approximately 1 million. Tell me how even 1 million can be accommodated within this year's express entry quota is only 82,000 people, 82,880 only. All right. PNP quota is 105,000 people. Out of 105,000 PNP quotas, only 20,000 with express entry. Rest is non-express entry. Where is the room? Where is the space? Where is the wiggle room here? You are then encouraging obviously more and more and more refugees, and that number is going up, which is also okay, fair. Canada continues to be a humane country, one of the very few in the world who is allowing people who are running, are running away from fear and persecution. Absolutely fine. Hats off to that. But realistically, when you go out and promote to the world that we are an immigrant welcoming country and we want to do this, why don't you go out and tell people how difficult this is going to be? Or why do the colleges are still, or universities are still promoting the programs saying that what they offer as Canadian education is a pathway for permanent residents? Why are you not saying clearly that this is only to study? If you want to come, just study and go back. Do not look at this as a permanent resident option, because more and more and more people will find it difficult. I do so many consultations in one day in, day out. And one of the biggest questions always from people is, what are my chances? Sometimes I just do not know what to tell people, because without being rude, that is, or without being absolutely, upfront and telling them, you do not have a chance. You're wasting your time. And the sooner you realize it, the less money and the less time and the less effort you're going to waste behind this. In most cases, if your CRS score is low, you do not have a possibility of a job offer. You do not want to take up French as a second language. You do not want to come to Canada as an international student. The doors are already closed the minute this happens. The only freak door that will open for you is if you get invited by Alberta under some freak draw that happens, because Alberta doesn't announce. Other than that, there is nothing there. There is no option. I can't come up with a secret pathway or a secret door that will open up for you. But that is the reality. Even people who are inside Canada, people who are international students, so many of the international students have still not woken up to understand that it is going to be a very difficult route ahead. Bill C-19, yes, I agree with a lot of people who say that Bill C-19 would give advantage to a lot of people. But it would not give it to everybody. It would give it to select few. Immigration programs are always meant to to fulfill a requirement of the country, not of the people. So many times people confuse this. People start thinking that Canada is being unfair, Sean Fraser is being unfair, IRCC is being. Why are they being unfair? Did they promise you anything? They did not, right? So they're not being unfair. Where they are not being fair is by not being clear, by not giving you clarity, by not communicating. At the end of the day, they call you a client. So the least they can do for a client is give them clarity, tell them what's happening, what's not happening, what can happen, what cannot happen, or at least what they are planning to do. That way people can then prepare and plan accordingly. But other than that, it's not about being fair or unfair. At the end of the day, Canada will do whatever they need to do for Canada, not for you. The idea is never to give you the benefit. The idea is always to do it for the benefit of, for the country, for Canada. So once you have that clarity, then as an international student, you have to start thinking, what are your options from the day you come in? Rather, not even from the day you come in, from the day you decide to come to Canada as an international student, from that day onwards itself, you should have your clarity as to what path am I going to take. Even today, people want to come to Ontario to study. Well, if you're coming to Ontario to study, have you identified your pathway? Have you figured out how you're going to become a permanent resident? Because, hello, let's accept it. You are not coming to Canada to study. I mean, so all that bull that you write in your SOP saying, hey, but this studying this would give me this opportunity, this, and that, all that, you know it, I know it, that's all, yeah, BS, right? So let's put that out of the window. That's only meant for the visa officer to give you your approval. You are not coming to Canada to study. You are coming to Canada because it will give you the opportunity to become a permanent resident. From there on, you get a first world passport, you become a citizen. That's your goal. And if that's your goal, and absolutely fine with that, then know your pathway from day one, even before you come to Canada, even before you have decided to study. Choose the province wisely. As of right now, most of you want to come to Ontario. Most of you want to go to BC. Why? Because your friends are there, because the weather is nice, because more people, because of this, because think, is it giving you a realistically good option to become a PR? Why are you not going into the rural area? Okay, few years of discomfort, fair enough. But then what is your end goal? What is your objective? You spend so much of money for what exactly? If you're not willing to take that few years of discomfort, and discomfort of what? Not that people will make you sleep on ice outside on the street. Discomfort of not having a bigger community, discomfort of living in a smaller area, discomfort of living in a rural area. Maybe you learn to like it. Or going to a province like Atlantic provinces where the competition is not based on points, but simply based on eligibility criteria. You're eligible, apply for it. And if you want to come to Ontario, choose a master's program. At least if you complete a master's program, you're a master's graduate, you can apply for nomination directly. You come to BC, complete a master's degree in 7 of those indicated fields. Where you complete your master's in those 7 indicated fields, you can apply for nomination immediately after completing. Go to the Atlantic provinces, where if you complete your master's or your graduate certificate in certain programs, you would be eligible for nomination immediately after that. Do your research, be smart, understand what your options are right from get-go, versus first coming to Canada as an international student, enjoying your time as an international student, and then suddenly realizing one fine day your points are not adding up, and then you're tough out of luck. Mind you, there will be an exodus of people who would be in Canada illegally, because after a point of time, their options would have run out. It's not rocket science. Google PNP websites. You should be able to scan everything, make a small table, different provinces, different eligibility criteria, where what is a possibility, where it is not a possibility. People are not thinking rural. You have to start thinking rural. If you do not have an option, you don't have a choice, think rural. That's where the shortages, that's where the employers are, that's where you can find job offers, that's where if you go, you will find options, whether it's LMIAs, whether it's finding a job offer for PNP support, whether it's finding your work experience and that employer who's willing to support you. Until unless you do that, you will very soon realize that maybe IRCC is not going to extend the postgraduate work permit, and very soon you have no other option but to leave Canada after having spent all that money, after spending all that time, after having paid all the taxes that you claim that you did, and you're out of luck. So in short, to summarize, all I'm telling you is Canadian immigration is difficult, is going to get more difficult as we move forward. whether it's Bill C-19, whether it's the exodus of number of temporary residents who are increasing in Canada and nobody's talking about it, the imbalance between the temporary residents and the permanent residents and nobody's saying anything about it. At some point of time, this will have to come down to understanding as to what's happening, what needs to be done. And if you are amongst that number, then you will be smart enough to identify it now and take some real tough decisions today versus having to leave Canada without any option tomorrow. That's your choice. So this is what I wanted to talk to you about. I can see there are tons and tons of questions. Obviously, I'll try and do as much as I can. In the meantime, if I do not answer your questions, then please, by all means, do drop me in the comment of the video and I will come back and of course, answer them as many as I can. I will take questions from the top. In the meantime, if you're still here, hit the like button on the video, please, because so that the video goes out to more and more people. And number two, do subscribe to the channel. Hey, I mean, who else gives you this kind of information, right? All right. Let's see. The first question is, any chance for 483 this year, or is it going to be tough? 480 range will not pull through this year. So I am not going to talk about any specific CRS scores. I'm not going to talk about who has a chance, who doesn't have a chance. If you're going to ask me about my PNP chance, my knock code chance, my CRS score chance, I'm not going to give you that answer because I can't. You are smart. If you can write this question, then you can very well do the research that you need to do on Google. Check the past trends, check the past records, check the past CRS scores. See how many people are getting invited. It's not rocket science. You can only see that the draws have not happened for the last month, almost now getting to be month and a half. And with this, the chances of the following draws that will happen, how high the draws would be, and how many invitations will be issued, that will define what the scores are. At this point of time, 483 is looking extremely difficult. Rather, anything below 489 is looking very difficult. Even 488 looks very difficult to me. My opinion at this point of time, based on what's happening. If tomorrow IRCC comes out and does a crazy draw of 20,000 people, well, hello, everybody gets invited then, right? Over 470 plus. But at this point of time, with the way things are and how they are transpiring, I don't give it much of a chance. You have to improve your scores. Other than that, if you get invited by PNP like Ontario, then that would be great. If I'm living with my relative for first few months, can I give proof of address for health card and PR card? Yes, you can give any address where you can get that in the mail. That is not a problem. Honestly, it's disheartening. Even those of us who have finally gotten ITA, it's difficult to be issued PPR as some VOs are slow and making the process looks clumsy. The tension is even worse. You know, amongst all that I have said today, I think when you are now going to say that the VOs are slow, visa offices are slow, well, the good thing is that at least you have an ITA. You have submitted an application. I am not going to argue and say that your stress is not stress enough. Of course, the whole process is stressful, but at least you are through. Your application is through. You know, if it's not today, if it's not this week, if it's not next week, if it's not next month, it will come through. It's just a matter of waiting versus you having to even wait even to get your ITA. So while I absolutely understand that the waiting process is the worst in the whole process, but waiting for the PPR is the least of the stresses in the whole process. But now that you're waiting for it, I wish you all the very best and I hope you get your PPR soon. Okay, somebody's spreading good news. That is ITA on 26th of October, AOR on 26th of November, PPR Jan 21. 55 days of processing, still awestruck. Congratulations, Joby. This is really incredible. As I said, the processing times are now really improving and getting better by the day. This is awesome, incredible. Okay. What are the requirements to study at an Ontario school? Can someone on a visitor visa join high school, elementary school? You would have to apply for a study permit. You can just because you're on a visit visa, you cannot join a school in Canada just like that. You would need to apply for a study permit. Please do something about your calendar. All dates for February and March were booked. It doesn't show April dates online. Need to book an online appointment. Fazi, thank you so much. Thank you so much for wanting to book an appointment for consultation with me. If you're looking for a link, then this is the link. My calendar slot opens up about a week in advance. And if I'm traveling, then obviously those dates become quite tricky. But more or less, my calendar is usually open 1 week in advance because I don't really know what I will be up to later on. Therefore, I only open 7 days in advance. But if you check the link, you should be able to find an available slot over the next 7 days and be able to book. Can I arrive and live in a city from a province other than the one indicated in the city of destination of my COPR? I applied through Federal Skilled Worker Program. If you have applied through Federal Skilled Worker Program, you can land anywhere in Canada, including Quebec. You can land in Quebec. There is no problem. There is nothing which restricts you in landing in Quebec. The only thing is your intention should not be to live in Quebec. So when your officer is asking you, where are you planning to live? You will say outside Quebec, whatever that city might be. And therefore you can land in any city. You can live in any city. There is no problem. Even if the city that is mentioned in your COPR is different than where you are landing, where you eventually live, there is no problem. Please, welcome to Canada. Enjoy your stay here. How much funds do I need to have personally in my account? I just finished my bachelor's degree, no job, want to apply for master's, which will be fully sponsored by my parents. Well, if you're applying for a study permit application and your parents are sponsoring your education, you don't need to have any funds in your account, because you'll be providing your parents' documents, your parents' bank statements, their funds, their accounts. So therefore, you yourself may not have any money in your account as long as your parents are providing all those funds. No question there. Sorry about that. Okay, some questions about chances. So we're not going to take those. I have a valid visit visa till 2024. Will it be feasible to come to Canada and search job or applying from India? If you are coming to Canada on a visit visa, ahlan wa sahlan, as they say, you're most welcome. Do come to Canada, visit Canada. You're coming to Canada as a visitor, which basically means you can visit Canada, you can visit family, you can visit friends, you can visit tourist attractions, you can even apply for jobs. There is no problem. You cannot work, you cannot study. These are the two things you can't do. If you find an employer, you will be eligible to apply for an you will be eligible to apply for a work permit. It's an LMIA based work permit. So your employer will have to apply for an LMIA. You will take the LMIA. You can go to the port of entry, apply for work permit, or now you can also apply for work permit online. But you will need the employer, you will need the LMIA unless the job is LMIA exempt. If you are planning to study in Canada, then in that case, the main condition if you're coming to Canada on a visit visa is that first you have to study in a pre-qualifying course, which would lead to a longer duration of course, and you should study that within your first period of visiting Canada. And once you have done that, then you will be eligible to apply for study permit inside Canada. Other than that, it gives you no advantage whatsoever. Okay. Thank you for the super chat. Got human capital notification of interest on 11 months of CEC work experience, which includes points awarded earlier. I submitted HCP after completing 1 year. Will Ontario be okay with this? Should I have already completed 1 year at NOI? Well, Ontario is very flexible, and their main criteria is at the time you are submitting your application, you should have completed 1 year at least. So if you have done that, then in my opinion, you will be fine. Any hope for postgraduate work permit expiring 2023 will be extended this time or not? Well, again, the same question coming up. I know there are some I do not know what kind of channels who are sort of saying that they have a tip-off of the postgraduate work permit being extended. I also know Sean Fraser came and met some international students, and he said that they are looking into this. He did not say that they are doing something about it. He said they are looking into this, and they said that there will be some things being announced later on which might be beneficial for students. Now, that could mean anything. At this point of time, there is absolutely no news, there is absolutely no information, there is absolutely no indication that postgraduate work permits of 2023 are going to be extended or not. At this point of time, I can't tell you. In my opinion, it looks and seems unlikely, but then IRCC has known to come out of the blue and announced these policies. They did that for 2022 as well. At this point of time, there is nothing else that I could tell you or share with you which could be hopeful. I don't see this at this point of time getting any more traction than it is already not getting. A lot of people are advocating, a lot of people have been promoting to IRCC and otherwise. The best thing to do would be to talk to your MPs in the area that you are and use the MPs to advocate for you to get you the extension. Other than that, there is nothing much that could be done about it. How many business days is normally needed to receive notification for biometric from IRCC after PR application? That is a variable number. It depends on what kind of an application you submit. It depends on what is your processing. Not in this case, of course. If it's express entry, it will all go to the central intake office. The number varies. It varies anywhere between 30 to 60 days, depending on when you submit your application. At this point of time, we are seeing most applications getting their biometrics request quite quick, within 30 days at least. So if you haven't got it, then I really can't tell you why not, because you're already 2 months old. Maybe call IRCC and check if everything is okay with your application. Kubeir says, I have to say Mr. Kamal is the best. God bless you immensely. Always the best. Well, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. Blessings and good vibes are always, always welcome. Under skilled trade, there are some NOCs which have trade certification mandatory, like 7321. Is it mandatory for EECEC eligibility as well? No, it is not. If you are applying under the federal skilled trades stream, then you will need the certificate of qualification. If you're applying under Canadian experience class, then you do not need to have the certification. I have got Ontario Tech invite. I'm using 15 sibling points, but my sister has lost her PR card and applied new one. It's taking a lot of time. Can we use any other document? You can use this copy of the COPR. That is also acceptable. That is not a problem at all. Child medical still valid, about to expire in 2 months. Just receive medicals for other family members. Shall I take upfront medical for the child or not needed? You can take upfront medical, but usually the medical centers will not do an upfront medical unless there is 1 month left for expiry. So you can try, but I don't think the medical center will be able to complete it. Bill C19 categories, any ideas? Nope, no ideas. And it seems like IRCC is not going to announce the Bill C19 categories anytime soon. We might only come to know the categories when the draws start happening, or next year when the whole table is, when they table it in the parliament. I'm a new permanent resident. I have to submit a sponsorship application for my wife. Can they join me at, I'm sorry, the question is not clear at all. No news on Bill C19. What do we expect? IRCC needs to be more transparent and creating anxiety about the no draw situation. I agree with you. I discussed this earlier already. What is the minimum points required for submitting expression of interest on Ontario's application? There is no minimum points requirement. Depending on what your criteria, depending on what your factors are, when you're creating your expression of interest, you will be able to click those. And based on that, the system will allocate the points to you. Based on that, as and when the draws happen for your respective stream, if you get invited based on your draws, then you will be able to complete your application. IRCC has sent a request to do my medical for the second time, when on the website it shows that I've already cleared my medical. So don't worry about what it shows on the website. What it shows is not a real-time information. If you have received a second medical request, then you may as well get it done. Can I select the knock code work experience as primary? It's not continuous experience. I have 3 years of work experience in another knock code, but I have one which is 8 plus 6 months, which is hot in Ontario. Well, if you are a federal skilled worker, then the primary knock code you choose, you should have at least one year of continuous work experience. Otherwise, if you choose a knock code and you do not have 1 year of continuous work experience as a federal skilled worker, your profile will become ineligible. I'm a new permanent resident. I have sent a sponsorship application for my spouse and child. Can they join me and stay with a visit visa as long as the application is under process? Yes, they can. If they already have an approved visit visa, they can join you. They can be in Canada. There is no problem at all. Will country-based cap happen according to you? It is a possibility. I don't see it happening anytime in the near future, but what they can do is, you see, because if at all IRCC creates a nationality category within Bill C19, they can do it, of course. Then there can be a lot of uproar within Canada itself. I can see that happening. A lot of political situation can happen. I don't see that happening anytime in the near future, because right now they are just yet to introduce Bill C19. So in the first year at least, I would think that they are going to stick to more conservative ways of creating categories. By that, it will be mainly occupation based, mainly language based, mainly education based, mainly place of your intent of where you want to live in Canada based. That's what I think, in my opinion. And of course, Canadian work experience, Canadian education, those points. As far as the country cap is concerned, I think that will happen or may happen in the coming future, but not anytime soon. That's my opinion at this point of time. Spouse is planning to apply for Bridge Open Work Permit with a postgraduate work permit. Will my spouse open work permit be extended as well if approved, or do I need to apply separately? What is the best advice? You can apply for your open work permit along with your spouse's Bridge Open Work Permit. Excuse me. Provided your spouse is working and you provide the employment documents and pay slips, pay stubs as well, along with as part of the application. It's a possibility. Got OINP Tech. We already did this question, sort of running down to some of the super chats because I need to finish the session and we haven't cleared the super chats. I got OINP interest at 483, but not able to show intention to stay in Ontario. I'm on LMI exempt work permit and working currently in BC. Do I need to get an amendment in work permit for a location change to prove my move? No, you don't need to. You simply need to express your intention. You simply need to say, currently I may be working in BC, but my intention is that once I get approved, I will move to Ontario. These are the reasons I will move to Ontario. That's all you need to do. You do not need to provide any document or work permit amendments to show that you are going to be doing it at this point of time. You simply need to be able to express your intention. I have my sister in Alberta. She is a citizen, but not getting any invite from Alberta. My work comes under legal administrative assistant. Do you think I have a chance in Alberta? Well, as I said, Alberta did introduce a new stream where the family members will have a priority, but your occupation also needs to be considered as in demand. So both of those have to be satisfied. I can't tell you, do you have a chance or not, because I do not know what are the occupations that Alberta is concentrating on. My CRS is 450 with 50 point of job offer. Can I select no for job offer after getting 600 points for PNP? Because at this moment, job offer is valid 10 months only. Yes, you can. There is no problem with that. Must knock on my closed work permit be the primary knock? No, it is not. It's not a requirement. It doesn't have to be like that. Just a shout out to you for helping online and offline as well. I do try to redirect everyone who asks me a question about Canadian immigration. Thank you. You're doing an absolutely great job. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. You're very kind. Okay, more questions. Do you think IRCC will no longer conduct regular general draws? In my opinion, IRCC will continue with the regular express entry draws. That is what they have indicated also on the website when they have issued out the stakeholder discussion questionnaire. In that also, they very clearly said that the regular express entry draws will continue simultaneously along with the Bill C-19 category-based draws. The only thing would be that the number of invitations would get split. They would get split between the general or the regular express entry draws and the Bill C-19 category-based draws, which basically would mean the lesser number of invitations for express entry general draws, and that would basically, again, translate into higher CRS score that would be drawn, just how the math is. Okay, oh, I lost my question feed. Just give me one moment to see what happened here. I'm a frequent follower, got a mail for confirmation of permanent resident, but me and my wife is in India. Can so I can't create a PR portal. Next, well, return back to Canada first, and then create your portal, and then have your wife send her passport for visa stamping, because if you have a passport request, and so your wife can send her passport for visa stamping, or if your wife also has a visa to Canada, then both of you return back to Canada and then go ahead with your portal activation. Applied for postgraduate work permit, now on implied status. Can my spouse apply for open work permit extension without my postgraduate approved first? I don't have any skilled job. Technically, no. But if you're not working, then your spouse is not even eligible for an open work permit. So therefore, you have to be working. You have to have an employment. You have to have a job letter as well as pay stubs in order for your spouse to apply for a work permit. In the meantime, you can change her status to visitor. For Ontario, what is the valid intention to live in Ontario? I think we already explained that. Do you think there is a real possibility of getting an invitation before June? Score is 502. Postgraduate work permit expiring in June. I can't tell you. I would assume so. I would assume that the express entry draws should resume at some point of time. It's just that I do not know when, because there is no way to speculate when the draws would resume. Uh, yeah, so that's all I can say. I mean, I'm hoping every single week that the draws resume. But the only understanding that I have, and in my opinion, is that there is possibly some technical issues that they are facing because they are introducing the new Bill C-19 categories. And because of that, they are holding back on the draws. That's the only theory I have. Myself, postgraduate work permit, wife is open work permit. Our son is 4, having visitor record. Do I need to apply for a student visa to travel outside and come back? Me and my wife alone have our travel visa and TRV stamped. I honestly don't understand your question, but if your child also does not have a TRV, then you can apply for your child's TRV. That's about it. As a 4-year-old, your child does not need a study permit. Any estimate how long is it taking to get COPR after seeing eligibility in tracker? I don't believe much in the tracker. Tracker for me is not real time. Tracker for me has not given me much information, and therefore I can't tell you how long it's taking. Also, you have to understand the passport requests or the portal requests is a batch release. It is not that the minute it is in your system, it will also be sent to you directly at that point of time. It's a batch release, and depending on when the next batch for release is, that is when you will get your passport request. Will my 10 years work experience history mentioned during my postgraduate work permit and TRV applications will be verified with my work experience history? I have mentioned wrong months for some work experiences. Well, as long as the months are not that variable, it is not a problem. You can correct that. Make sure everything in your PR application is correct. Your work history is the one which is going to be verified the most. Anything else that you're not claiming points for can go in your personal history. And for that, you don't need any documents, and that you don't have to have much worry about. With everything said, what are the chances for bilingual outstanders? Please advise. In my opinion, I feel Francophone will have a great advantage. So bilingual and Francophones, they will have a great advantage because Canada has always been more inclined towards increasing the Francophone immigration outside Quebec. So as long as your interest of province of interest is outside Quebec, which is obviously a requirement in express entry, and you are a Francophone, you have high scores, there is a high possibility that you could be one of the categories, or you could have a collective category. So basically, XYZ occupations and being Francophone or bilingual collectively would be a category, which I am quite optimistic about. So yes, I absolutely feel bilingual would really add a lot of importance or advantage to your application. Okay. Can someone with study permits stop studies if they get PR through dependent spouse's work permit? Will it be a problem during citizenship? No, there is no problem during citizenship at all. You were a temporary resident while you were studying in Canada on a study permit. Once you become a permanent resident, the conditions of a temporary residence no longer apply to you. So you can stop studying. You can inform the college you no longer want to study. You are now a permanent resident. Those conditions of a temporary residence do not apply on you. So you will have absolutely no problem. There is no issue there at all. My CRS score was in the range of the recent Ontario Tech draw. My primary knock code was also included, although I didn't get an invite. What could be the reason? I don't know, to be very honest with you. Were you invited before? Did you reject Ontario invitation before? Did you not complete an application for which you had received an invitation before? Those could be some of the reasons. At the end of the day, it's Ontario's discretion who they choose to apply. But if none of those applied to you and you really had a CRS score in that range and your primary knock code was also one that was invited, you can always write to Ontario and check with them if there is any specific reason why you were not invited. What's your take on increased crime in Canada? Schools being attacked, cars being stolen, people being robbed. All this is happening in Toronto GTA. Someone needs to talk about this. Well, yeah, sure, someone needs to talk about this, just not me, because I am not an expert on those matters. Maybe you can take it up with some channels which talk about the current situation, the civil situation in Canada or in Toronto GTA. Maybe you can talk to your local MP and see what they are doing about the situation in your city, in your town. Just like anywhere in the world, When comes the people bring with them their mindset, and with the mindset comes situations which, when there is an imbalance in the economic condition, uh, these kind of criminal activities are always seen. Canada is no stranger to those kind of things either. So the best person to talk to would be a local MP to see what they are doing about these situations. Okay, some more questions coming through. Akhil, sorry, nothing there. Vishal, nothing there. IRCC is very unpredictable. I agree with you. They are extremely unpredictable. Eric says, can a worker offer to pay $230 employer compliance fee for the employer? Well, you can come to any kind of arrangement you want with your employer. Technically, the employer is supposed to pay that fee. Okay, more and more questions coming through. I'm sorry, I'm not able to answer all the questions. Okay, this one is Akhil. I'm on postgraduate work permit. I have 1 year of continuous work experience. Work permit expires soon. Can I transition from postgraduate to work permit LMIA exempt and take 50 points? Huh? How would you transition from postgraduate work permit to LMIA exempt work permit? If you have an employer who is offering you an LMIA exempt work permit, which is primarily based on the kind of a job that you will have to do, you can take 50 points after completing 1 year on that LMIA work or LMIA exempt work permit. Okay. What happens if we miss a PPR mail in spam mailbox? You can inform IRCC about it and request them to send you a new one, or just simply go to a VFS and submit your passport anyway. It also depends how long back did you actually receive the mail which you have missed out. Are trade certificates mandatory in applying for regulated job closed work permit outside Canada? It could be. It all depends on the LMIA that has been issued. What does the LMIA stating? What conditions has the LMIA indicated? That would indicate whether you need to get the trade certificate or not. Job offer is 11 months. Can I still claim 50 points? Technically, no, because the question will be very, very clearly. It will say, have you completed 1 year? So when you're saying yes, it basically is not true. The system gives you points earlier. That does not mean you can also say the same thing when you have to answer those questions clearly. So please do not do that. Wait for a month and get it when you have to get it. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for joining in. I really appreciate your joining in today. I'm sure I've not answered a lot of questions, but it's not possible for me to, because my time is running out. I need to get on with something else at this point of time. If you wish to discuss with me your situation, your case, your questions, your queries one-on-one, then please, this is the link. By all means, book an appointment. We'll be happy to discuss with you one-on-one. If you have received a notification of interest from Ontario and are simply not sure how you need to proceed, then drop us an email. We can help you handle your application. So if that's what you're looking to do, by all means do. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Definitely, this is the place to be for all the credible information that you want to get about Canadian immigration. Thank you so much for joining in. I shall see you next time. Until then, take care, stay safe.